All right, how is everyone doing? Welcome to Phoenix Comicon. This is the Dollhouse panel. You guys are a quiet bunch. Is everyone having a good morning? Are we still waking up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Your caffeine helps with that process. All right.
Caffeine, sugar, whatever else.
Yeah, whatever. Well, I'm just going to go with caffeine and sugar as a recommendation. So Dollhouse ended about 2 years ago, but it left a veritable wake of unanswered questions and interesting ideas. And here to wade through it today, we have Jesse Foster and Christmas Martin.
Yay!
So to get things started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, why you like Dollhouse so much?
Because I like Dollhouse.
Oh,
I'm Jesse Foster. I'm usually at conventions running games in the gaming room. Big Joss Whedon fan of all his work, especially the recent stuff like Cabin in the Woods and The Avengers. If you ever see Cabin in the Woods, you have to leave.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, then I'd have to leave, but I need to film this.
Twice. But as a game master, I put a lot of gain a lot of inspiration from his work because of the ensemble stuff, which is another conversation, another panel. But that's my perspective on that. But Dollhouse, and we'll talk a lot about that, has a particular appeal to me. Go Christmas, go.
Hi, I'm usually Christmas Martin, but today I'm Donna Noble.
And Dollhouse, I started watching the show actually because, Faith was in it, and I'm a big fan of how Joss uses the same people from one show to the next show to the next show, choosing the people that he loves, and just takes them and develops them through all of the shows that he does, and just takes them and uses them in so many different ways. And I just love the concept of this total mind control that he put on people, and I thought that was fascinating, and so here I am, there I go. And yeah, usually you can find me over actually in the gaming department as well. I'm a coordinator, and so there's a bunch of gaming junkies up here that like to shoot our mouths off about things. So that's our entire qualification set.
That's not a bad qualification.
So I know we have the microphones, but you guys are welcome to move all the way up here. It's not like we're going to be...
Come close, get real.
So please, just come up and have a conversation.
They're like, no, we're staying far, far away from you. Here we go. This one's for you.
We're all...
That's okay. She's my family. She's a first friend.
Oh, okay. Well, I still give her credit. She's not afraid of me.
So just to start things off, I'll jump right in. One of the highlights of when we're discussing what the panel was going to be about, what would lead the conversation was about, and I know the answer to this already, so it's almost a rhetorical question to talk about it, is that was it cut off before its time? Did we get enough Dollhouse in 27 episodes? What's missing, what's lacking, where were they going, stuff like that. So, but this, I would rather have this more of an open discussion. Anybody have any opinions on that? Want to jump in and say something about it? Just say, holy crap, it went too long.
Hey, at least that closure rather than Firefly.
Right, exactly.
I think they could have.
Went, oh, we're going to get canceled. Let's throw closure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could have expanded upon it, maybe for like 1 or 2 more episodes, because it's like they did the last imprinting and stuff, and then it jumped 10 years, and I'm like, what the heck happened? And then the very last episode, the series finale, I thought that it was all rushed. I mean, seriously, Topher dying in an explosion?
I haven't seen that yet.
But seriously, I seriously thought that the series finale was kind of rushed.
Yeah, and that's...
If they had explained a little bit more about it, then it probably would have made sense, but it felt just so rushed.
Right.
But it's still a good show, though.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice that they did choose to go ahead and wrap things up somewhat, but they did have to really cram it all in there. And I think that if they could have gotten maybe another half season or something in there, they could have played things out in a more, I don't want to say logical way, but a more explanatory way.
I was going to say the MacGuffin of the servers at the second to last episode just kind of screams, hey, we should probably explain.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
They could have had time to, or if they could have even, maybe shoved a TV movie in there or something and gotten an extra couple of hours worth of explanation in there.
Exactly.
I honestly don't think the series really is kind of. I think there should have been at least one more season in which they brought it to an end. Because they alluded to characters that you never find out what happened to them.
Right.
So, if they'd done that one other season, where they could have brought it to a full close like that and explained, what happened to all these characters, I think it'd have been much better.
Right.
I'm gonna sit down so I'm not moving over you.
Does everyone
Boom.
know there's a
Oh, you
Dollhouse
want me to stand?
comic book?
Yes.
No?
I just bought it, I haven't read it.
Epitaph?
I just
And
got it.
that's supposed to go, I haven't read it yet either, but that's supposed to pick up where the series left off.
Hate when they do
Correct.
that.
Yeah, I just got it. I just
Yeah,
found
it
it,
just
got
came out
it.
April 11th, so I haven't gotten it either, but it's supposed to pick up where they left off and explain what happens to everybody, right?
I think so,
So, yeah.
which would be awesome.
Go pick that up.
But that's what happens anytime a show ends prematurely. You have, with a good writer, you have tons of subplots and little intrigues going on that should last seasons, and then you go, hey, you got 3 more episodes. Try wrapping it all up now. So, and I don't think Joss knows how to quit. So he weaves such a intricate web. And you're like, oh well, we can terminate these stories, and we're just going to flub those. And go,
Buffy seasons 8, 9 comic book?
Yeah.
They brought, by the way.
Yeah. I read it. It's just.
right. So yeah, when I first heard about the idea of Dollhouse, I thought, well, they could do a season or 2 of that. I'm not sure if that story's sustainable. If it's a good, okay, we get it, like people going out thinking other people. It's a neat idea, but is that idea show worthy really? And then I saw it and I was like, oh, this show's not about that. The show's about everything but that. It's not about making blank people. It's completely not about that. So, but
Yeah, you hear the premise to Dollhouse and you're like, come on, Joss, and you're like, I should have had faith.
right. Well, but you know that by
Yeah.
now if you watch any of the other stuff that he'll say, oh, look, it's a story about some idiots that go out to a cabin in the woods. Oh, I've seen that. No, you haven't.
Not the way he does it anyway.
Right, exactly. It's a story about that story. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, once you realize where it's going, then yes, hey, the show could go 5 seasons, 6 seasons, 12 seasons, however long I want it to go.
Yeah, I think it should have been 3 seasons, or at least
At
2.5, or made the seasons longer.
Right.
You know.
But we used to do like 24 episode seasons back in the old days. So yeah, but that's, like I said, that was one of the key launching conversation points I want to talk about. One of the big things anytime I talk to someone about it, especially when it first launched, the people in the media that were complaining about it, was about the uncomfortable plot lines, about it being prostitution and murder and all that. I'm like, that's the whole point. You shouldn't like it. And Joss even said that. He's like, you're not supposed to like it. This is not the type of thing where everybody's like, oh yay, blank people that are out prostituting and murdering. It's not supposed to be good. It's not a good thing. You're not supposed to like the company. And you get to see that with like Topher frequently, who has no morals, and all of a sudden something hits him and it has to hit him in the face. And he's like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I forgot to be uncomfortable
I
about
love
my job.
Topher.
But that to me is a good talking point. If you guys want to expand on that, about the fact that the underlying plot line of the movie, of the show, the movie, it should be a movie, was the uncomfortableness of it touching on a subject that upsets people, unnerves you, and you realize where they're going with it. You guys have
Well,
any input on that?
yeah. Well, what I don't understand is with like Victor. Okay, he was a soldier in what, Afghanistan, Iraq, something. How in the world was basically lobotomizing him in a sense supposed to help him get through his PTSD?
I don't think that's what they did. I don't think they expanded on it. But
They should have.
They were learning at that point how to edit select stuff, especially from the other Dollhouse, from Summer's character.
Ah.
His name I can't remember, Bennett.
Oh yeah.
Where she took a person and just modified the person and put them back in themselves. I think they were using that to creatively make him a better Victor. Or
Okay.
what was his real name?
What? Yeah, whatever his name was. I just know it was Victor.
Right. I just saw that.
Unfortunately, I've forgotten.
But that's an eventuality with it, along with the other technologies of remote flashing, people without the architecture.
Yeah.
Is that, hey, I know I've got this fear of water and I want to go for a swim. Cool, we'll come in, we'll give you a treatment. You're not afraid of water anymore. You're still you, but we edited out your defect.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's an eventuality of the technology and could have been
Yeah,
an
just
interesting direction
they
for it to
didn't
go.
really expand on it. It just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's like, okay, they basically took his personality, let him roam around doing God knows what for 5 years, and then they put his personality back into him, and suddenly he's cured.
Right.
It's like, that makes no sense.
Well, it was also, the fourth to the last episode, so I think
Yeah.
they were already starting to like snip plot lines up, so.
They shouldn't have done
They
that.
could have slowly explained that one out.
And was that eventuality supposed to be expanded on, maybe even over a whole season of, oh, this is now a new cure for all of these things, all these phobias, all these traumas, but yet was that going to be a way to get the structure, the architecture into the brains of all these people who we later want to control?
Right.
They could have expanded that into a whole season worth of.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, they could have
So-
expanded that time jump of that 10 years. It's like, okay, how did they get, I know that Topher got the plans and everything, and what's her face, the director of it, she gave them to the higher ups. It's like,
Right.
Adele.
yeah, Adele. And then it's like, okay, he destroyed the plans. How the heck did they get the technology,
Well, it's like anything else. He wasn't the only one working on it. He wasn't the only one that could have come up with it. And besides, he worked it all up on their computers. So
Oh, good point.
someone's watching. They're always watching.
Of course. It's like Big Brother's watching, but he's going to just use everything against you.
And they showed something you touched on with that statement was that, or I think you said, about putting the architecture in everybody so they can eventually come back and control you. They pulled that with November where they were like, hey, she's a normal person now. We're going to need you to come back in. We're going to borrow you again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you never really leave.
Right, you never.
That's what they said in the show, was that to get the architecture, you don't ever leave.
Right.
Physically you can, but then you have to come back.
So another interesting point I wanted to bring up was, and they show this as they go through the show, is the people carrying the traumas forth, like the episode about everyone having an unresolved desire, so they let them escape, let them do all that.
That was
Think
good.
about that. That's
That was
something that
good.
transcends your imprint. So imagine all of the stuff that the doll does as a doll. They murder people, they beat people up, they go and rescue presidents.
Yeah, exactly.
They get traumatized. Like you earn all those traumas. I mean, this is
Yeah,
like
because when
PTSD
Echo
max.
had, when she came face to face with that murderer or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about that. You get all that trauma, and we've already proven that getting a wipe doesn't remove that trauma. It hides in you somewhere.
Yeah.
So now you go back to being a regular person when your contract's over, and you've got 5 years of trauma packed up inside you somewhere that they can't erase.
Yeah.
So seeing people, in third or fourth season that are trying to live normal lives, and all of a sudden have flashbacks to all those things, like Echo did.
Yeah.
It's not a perfect technology now. We're realizing the flaws in the technology.
Yeah, and one other thing that I found interesting was criminal behavior is not part of one's personality, because with Alpha, he totally messed up whiskey. I'm like, what the hell?
Well, it is his now since he's so many people.
Well, yeah, but that was actually an accident. I mean, before that, he was put back in the chair to reboot his personality or whatever. He had that criminal activity still going through him. That's not that was part of his personality, and yet it wasn't, because he was in doll state when that happened.
Right.
So I don't know what the heck happened. He just snapped. He's like, let Echo be number one. He just sliced her up. I'm like, I think that just proves that even in the blankest state, you can still have that slight criminal personality.
Right.
Because that's what your hands are used to. Your body reacts to it.
Right. Well, and the idea suggests that there's memory stored somewhere other than in your brain. At least in the part of the brain that Topher knows that way.
Mm. Yeah, especially what happened to Agent Ballard. Oh my God.
So, anybody else have any other input, thoughts, insight on that particular subject, really? It's just so talkative.
I just thought it was really
If it was
amazing.
Sunday morning.
Questions and like that dialogue was just like incredible.
Yeah.
I was really enjoying that connection you guys had.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
We should move up here and join us.
That's it. We don't
So you
bite.
should be the one doing the panel here, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a twist as to who was behind the whole thing.
Right.
Yep.
I did not expect it was him. I thought it was, the guy who keeps changing bodies. I actually thought it was him. No.
Right.
He's another puppet. That just totally surprised me. I'm like, what? It's the cop?
There's so many things that you could. Again, they could have explored a couple of seasons left. They could have gone through.
Yeah, I was gonna say they have like a whole they should have done a whole other season to just explain everything,
Right.
but they didn't.
Well, I think that's the case with so many shows. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, hardly anything's actually allowed to really play itself out. And even if it plays out, you think of 1,000 other things they could have done. And sadly, it seems like Whedon is the most victimized of.
All
But
the
now he has
crap.
Cut this
Avengers
off.
money and can make whatever he
I was gonna
wants.
say,
Yeah.
now he needs to, he should go and just have full run.
Yep.
Yeah. But he's going to be too busy to do any of that, so.
Yes,
For
making
quite a
an
while.
infinite number of Avengers movies.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay with it.
I just say he's done a lot of good things. He's made a lot of
It's
great.
like James Cameron right after Titanic.
Yeah.
He can do whatever the heck he wants, right?
Yeah.
And, you know.
Avatar.
5 seasons of Firefly.
Oh god.
You know, a whole new crew, though.
I'm fine with that. As long as it's in the same verse, he can get a whole new crew in. I'm sure there would be unique characters that
Grab the
they would love.
redemption crew, just go with it.
Yeah.
So, a question I would like to ask all of you, just to stir a little bit. Do you think all the dolls were volunteers? They
No.
always say they are. Hey, these people came here to us for help. Or they're volunteers.
I was about to say Sierra kind of was, Victor kind of was, Echo was not.
Right, right.
As for all the other dolls, we have no idea. They were the only. They were the only. Well, no,
I was going to
because
say, I'm sure the way Rossum plays games, that they probably coerced a lot of them, or manipulated a lot of them.
They were volunteers and
Exactly.
quotes.
You eventually get to a point where you have no other choice, and this really sweet woman, Adele, has this fantastic way out.
Well, Adele or one of her counterparts.
Right, exactly. Or the other house managers, what I care about.
yeah, and I did not like the Washington Dollhouse, the way they ran things. It's like seriously.
I thought it was a good dynamic to show that there were two different styles of house.
Yeah, but it's
master.
like watching the one in L.A. and then going to the Washington. It's like, what the hell are they doing? East Coasters don't know how to do things like the West Coast.
Well, and that, since we live in the LA Dollhouse for the show, we get to see the way Adele does things, and frequently she'll reference how, well, they're not going to be happy about this, they're not going to be happy about this. What do they want? Well, they want what it looks like over there. That's how wrong you're doing it. And it still works.
Which I'm surprised because I would think the LA Dollhouse would be the more strict one because it's closer to Tucson than
Right.
the DC one. Because it all,
Geographically, but,
it's true.
virtually or
Whatever, yeah.
Maybe a little.
It all depends on how how the reporting goes for each house.
That's right.
Um,
Okay, so I have a question real quick. Just this last go through watching Dollhouse, I thought you guys might be interested. What about Whiskey's contract? Right,
man.
she's a volunteer, more or less.
Well.
She signed a 5-year contract.
ended
Do
up
you think
staying
Dr.
longer.
Summers is going to disappear at the end of her contract? I mean, was that obviously that's not where we went, but was that the plan?
Well,
And then what's going to happen at the end of the 5 years when she's like, oh, hey, contract's up, you can go. By the way, don't look in the mirror. Here's an extra
well,
$2,000.
they started doing surgeries on her to fix that because they did that to Victor too.
Right, well, they got to Victor sooner.
Yeah, I know. Well,
When you're
she
broken
ran
down.
away because she was gonna run with what's his face? I can't remember their names. I'm sorry.
Come on, you're my backup.
I mean, I personally think that probably since she was in the state she was in, and since she filled the role of the doctor so very well, I don't think they were ever going to terminate her contract. I think they were going to keep her.
Right.
Well,
Or
yeah,
if they
considering
did,
that she had to take over for the doctor who was killed by Alpha, so.
Right, but if they were going to end her contract, are they just going to hop Dr. Saunders into another body, into another broken doll? And Topher had the same thought, which is why he tried to flash Bennett.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, you're broken, and you're broken and you're pretty. Oh crap, you're not really a doll, you're just a broken.
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought she was a doll too,
Yeah.
like Whiskey.
And I'm sure that was the intention, was that everybody's gonna think she's a doll. Topher's our eyes in the show, so he's gonna think she's
I
a
love
doll.
Topher. He's so great. I like when they actually improved Victor with Topher. That was great.
Yeah.
It's like, you have 2 Tophers, what the hell?
That was fantastic. And he did a great job.
Yes, he
Actor
did.
Fantastic job playing Topher.
Nervous twitch.
Which I'm sure that's one of the reasons he was chosen instead of, Sierra or any other frequently used dolls to play that role.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we talked about this a little while ago, but, or at least it came up, about memory, about how memory works, about how your identity that you have, what things that you know, and retaining that. What does it say to that if the technology is there to remove that, but not to be able to, like I said, about distributed memory? Somewhere in you, you're storing the memory in a way that they don't understand. They think they understand the brain well enough to remap it, and they can blank your memory. And the dolls behave in a blank state, but somehow, somewhere in there, they're retaining some of their actual individuality. So, if that's, assuming that Joss's view on that is accurate, what does that say about the mind that we know, the way we think? Does it mean that our brain stores stuff, or has a backup, for that matter, of what you think? You know, Echo would frequently flash back to little things.
I assume it would be like a child who was abused as a child, and their brain automatically blocks those out, and then when they become an adult or something, have those somewhat flashbacks. I assume a doll would be fairly similar to the abusive situation. So whether it's murder, whatever, they probably tap into that part of the brain that blocks that out and block it out, but you can only block out so much when it's attached so emotionally to everything.
So you're suggesting that a wipe isn't a wipe, it's a repression.
Right.
It's all in your head still, we're going to lock it away.
Right. That's how I always viewed it. It was
Right.
more of a repression instead of a wipe. I don't think you could actually wipe
Clear it.
all of that out. Yeah.
That's a
Seems
good
to
thought.
me that there's some research that talks about cellular memory, and the people that have transplants, you know, different body parts, and they bring memories of, you know, like they don't like Mexican food, and then they get somebody's body part who love Mexican food, and then they like Mexican food.
Right.
So, you know, that's another issue that they maybe didn't fully deal with, that you have to wonder how that works.
Right. That some of that's retained somehow,
Somewhere
stored in a
in
way that
cellular
we don't yet
structure.
understand how it's stored somewhere other than just in the brain.
Yeah, and in the heart now, they've done some research showing that the heart has certain types of cells that are similar to brain cells.
Right.
So, I mean, there's just a lot of variables there that I would think they couldn't fully control.
Oh yeah, I think with anything, with understanding memory and the way the body works, like anything else, the more we learn scientifically, the more we realize we don't know. You know, the more questions you answer, the more doors you open. So that's a good point.
Yeah, it's also like what they did with Paul Ballard. You know, after Alpha killed him and they had to bring him back as a doll, but with his own memories.
Right.
It's like, okay, some of his brain got fried, so they had to use another part of the brain. So, you know, the technology might be there, but it's like, you know,
Neurons are very plastic, so any neuron can be any
Exactly.
other neuron.
Retooled, yeah. Well, luckily in that case, that before Alpha killed him, he had made a tape of him, so.
yes, that was actually a very lucky shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just you know, yeah, the technology may be around at some point, but you know, we still have to study the brain intensively in order to understand. Okay, can we use this other part of the brain to make up for loss of these functions? It's a rewiring process, and we haven't figured it all out yet.
Right.
But they've removed like people's brain, like they've had an accident, they've taken out half of the brain, and then over time, therapy, person can learn, you know, I don't know if it's the brain that regrows or the other side of the brain, can then learn to do some of those functions that
Right.
are normally done on one side. So it's so complicated. I would think the only way to really ensure that things didn't come out, you'd have to put a suggestion that if you started to remember that you would harm yourself, or if you started to remember that, you know, something that where the person would hold themselves back.
Right,
from
more of a
remembering
hypnotic tool in place as a safeguard.
as a fail-safe.
Do you guys think the show benefited, or was it detrimental that it was kind of becoming really, really technical as far as, you know, because I mean, it was becoming pretty in-depth about the science of memory. Do you think that helped, or did it hurt the show?
I think it helped. Because that kind of gives us a look at, okay, this is where technology could go. It may turn out to, you know, if it gets in the wrong hands, then yeah, it's going to be used in the wrong way. But in the right hands, you know, then it's just another advancement in technology, and I think that's a good thing. Because we live in a technologically advancing world, so why not? I personally have said several times while watching the show, it's like, if that technology were actually available, I probably would go through it. Because there are things in my past that I would love to forget.
Right, but
So.
you want to be a client down the line after they perfect the ability to selectively.
Oh, no, I wouldn't be a client, I would be a doll. I would be a doll. Just so I wouldn't have to think about, things that have happened.
How many people in here would actually go through that? How many people would want to be a doll?
Just one.
Just one?
Wow.
Two, got a zombie.
I don't need to be,
He's already a doll.
Because everybody else wants to be a client.
Go ahead.
I would be a client further down the line, though, once they perfect it
Right.
and can give me the skills that I want and take away certain memories, then I'd be a client.
Yeah, I would say if they can erase just certain memories and not like the entire personality and everything, I would jump at it in a heartbeat.
I think that memory and personality are very intertwined. So when as you take things away, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for anyone else, but as I think even the negative things that happen, can give you a depth, a personality that you didn't have before. I think the issue I have with the show that bothered me was someone else being the architect of what I'm doing, what I'm saying, and not really feeling like I would be totally in control or want to give up that control.
Right. Well, you are, like you're saying, you're the sum of all your experiences. Every trauma, every awesome thing that's ever happened to you, that makes you. So you go delete that horrible thing that happened to you when you were 14 and fell off your bike and skinned half your face off. That's important to you now. That's part of you. You made decisions since that day based on that experience. You erase that, you're a different person. I mean, maybe a little different, but still, the person you are now is because of that event.
I think the show kind of hit on that. The dolls had control even when, because they didn't really say do this, do that. They really put, this is your personality, this is your capability. But then even the show showed that she was still, the main character.
Echo.
Yeah, Echo. That she was still herself. She still had input and control, and things started popping up that were her personality,
Right.
even when they had given her a doll to play.
Right. Well,
So
part of that's because Echo was defective, though. so-
Right.
I think it showed even if one's not like Echo, because in Whiskey, she hated Topher.
Well-
And that wasn't programmed, she just grew to hate him. So you can still make decisions even if you were an adult and not Echo, right?
Well, he did touch on when she laid into him about that she came to understand that there needed to be a dichotomy, an opposition, some way to keep Topher's lack of morality in check was to have someone that cared about the dolls, and so someone that would butt against him. So he may not have intended for her to hate him, but he designed her to hate him. He put stuff in there to make her oppose him, and for her to dislike, even though she lived in the dollhouse, to dislike the mistreatment of the dolls. And he was the mechanic, the instrument of that mistreatment. So, yeah, he may not have intentionally done it, but somewhere along the line, he put all the pieces together to make that happen.
Yeah, but not all emotions are based on personality, because with Sierra and Victor, they grew to love each other.
Right.
And that was in their doll state. So that transcends any memories, any imprints.
Right, which is
So I say, it has nothing to do up here, it has everything to do with chemicals.
right. But that's
Not-
the writing of the story saying that the brain doesn't create love, that love comes from deeper in you, in your soul, your heart, or like you're saying, chemistry.
Chemicals. Yeah, it's
Pure
a
chemistry.
chemical thing, not
Right.
Or
a
that
memory
That
thing.
it's a pure state, that it's,
That transcends your brain.
This is getting really deep.
Go for it, go.
No, it's just, this is getting.
Oh, I thought you were about to throw a deep
Oh,
question out there. Yes. I agree.
Yeah, sadly, this is not one of those, fun, laughy, entertaining panels.
We throw stuff, that could be fun.
We could try to go to that place, but unfortunately, it's not the nature of the show. The show is unfortunately one that is more about the deep, transcendental, almost weepy emotions, and not the, rambunctious stuff going on beyond the wall.
Yeah.
That's the time
Actually,
when
I
Josh
have a
puts his best
question
jokes
that I'm
in.
posing to the entire room.
Okay.
Because you guys were mentioning the pots that they sleep in the floor. well, does, what if there was somebody who was automatically, kind of like Alpha was kind of an automatic criminal, he did all this stuff. What if somebody had the ability to be claustrophobic
Right.
in their doll state? What would happen?
You mean someone before they became a doll was claustrophobic?
Well, after they they began with the claustrophobia, then after they were wiped, they still had it
Right.
somehow. Like it was deep inside them, like Alpha's criminal nature was still inside him.
Right. I think if something like that surfaced, it would have been an earlier indicator to them because the people running the Dollhouse didn't understand yet that stuff survived the wipe. I think they started realizing it with Alpha compositing and then Echo heading on the same path, and then Sierra and Victor. That, like I said, the show is not about using people as blank dolls. The show is about so many other things. But it's telling you that love is not in the brain and that memory can be repressed or stored somewhere else, things like that.
Yeah,
So
but can fear kind of
Definitely.
avoid the wipe?
Yes, I think it could because we saw so many traumas come back, like Echo, of course. But I think
But I don't think something like claustrophobia really could, because usually a phobia like claustrophobia is not as deep-seated as something like criminal nature.
well, it could be.
It could be.
depends on where it
Depending-
comes
yeah,
from.
depending on how severe it
What
is.
caused it, where it comes from, what trauma caused it, or what anything caused it. But if it had, I think if it surfaced, they would have went, hey, wait, dolls aren't claustrophobic. Why are you freaking out in your bed? And then went, hey, the original client was claustrophobic before we wiped them. Wow, something's surviving the wipe. We should do some more research. And then they would have probably prevented something like Alpha from happening because they were pushing out what was surviving and found a way to suppress it or prevent it or control it.
Yeah, but it's like, sometimes nature within, the body itself, not necessarily how the brain controls it, can actually stay within you even if, you're basically like unconscious in a way,
Right.
Because being in a doll state is like almost being unconscious because you don't know who you are,
Right.
really, because they tell you who you are. You don't really know where you are or anything like that. You basically know nothing except, how to talk.
Right.
That's it.
And how to like your treatments.
Yeah.
Well,
But I honestly think fears transcend anything else. Like, because fear is human nature.
right. But
You can't get rid of a human's nature just because you wipe their personality.
Right. Nature punch away.
Because so much anxiety and stuff is just a chemical reaction in the brain.
Right.
I feel
And
like fears are developed rather than.
yeah, for the most part, because I'm going to go here because I personally suffer from anxiety disorder,
Oh.
severe anxiety disorder.
Okay.
And without the help of medication, I would be in my home, in the
So if I
corner.
like shout at you, will that like really trip you out?
No,
No.
no, because I'm treated.
Oh.
And I would be in my home, not able to get up on stage in front of people and talk. And
It's like, quick, give me something to throw.
with the help of medication that treats the chemical imbalance in my brain, it's not a problem. I'm an outgoing person. So that's why I feel that it's something that could survive, because they wouldn't have people in the doll program that suffered these sort of problems, and they would, if they did it in any way, shape, or form, they would treat it. So you're not going to have somebody coming in with fear, because that's not going to be able to survive, because of phobia or fear generally is rooted in a chemical imbalance in the brain.
I'm with him. I think it depends on where it stems from. I mean, if an anxiety disorder is simply an imbalance in the brain, fine. But something like claustrophobia, I'm personally claustrophobic because I put myself underneath the dirty clothes hamper and then my brother came and sat on it for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was stuck there. Hence, I became claustrophobic. And I think that is rooted there and not an imbalance and could then therefore transfer over. But you're right, something like anxiety disorder or depression or whatever, which is strictly an imbalance, could probably be wiped.
Right. But in the case of Dollhouse, if they knew about those things,
Right.
and it could be chemically treated
Right.
through medication or therapy or whatever, you'd be getting that. You'd be getting to see the doctor every day, get a little shot or a little pill. which they don't ever really cover, but, you know, hey, that was season 3, right?
Yeah, but see, you know, it kind of ties back to Victor's whole thing because he had PTSD. That's not a chemical imbalance.
Right.
It can be treated, but it's not a chemical imbalance.
That's trauma.
So, you know, it still doesn't make sense how his PTSD can be treated by basically taking away his personality.
Well, yeah.
And then re-injecting it to him 5 years later.
Letting him sleep for 5 years, because he woke up, you know, when they re-woke him up, he was like, what? You said this was going to be, hey, wait, your clothes are different, you know? So
Yeah.
he didn't experience a change. So yeah, how could he get therapy?
Yeah,
Whereas
how
he
is
couldn't-
wiping his personality supposed to be therapeutic for him to get over his PTSD?
Right.
That is the
He
most,
just time
for me, that
traveled.
is one of the most important questions about the entire series.
And it's-
How is it possible?
And I still think that the reason that's not really answered is because they were already cutting the show.
Yeah.
You know, Victor's story, his PTSD for that matter, could have been a several episode arc of how, explaining to us how they could have treated a problem or a trauma. Because, and well, actually that goes into the same thing for a lot of the dolls. You know, hey, look, you got in trouble with the mob. Okay, we're gonna disappear you for 5 years and poop your back. Nothing changed, right? They still hate you. They still want to shoot you. And here, you're back in the world. Go for it. Or, you know,
Then you have a lot
your baby
of money
died.
to.
Right, like November. Hey, look, your baby died. You're really sad. We're gonna put you to sleep for 5 years, right? So you remember nothing, which means she doesn't remember those 5 years passing. Where, in the real world, she would have mourned and maybe sought therapy and gotten over it. 5 years should be fine. Still sad her baby's dead. Still bring flowers to the grave. But you, just like every other normal person, we got past it. Instead, she skipped 5 years. So today she gets wiped. 5 years later, it's the same day to her.
Yeah.
You didn't get over anything. You just, 5 years passed. In the real world, not a day passed for you. So it didn't really help you at all. So I would have to think that if they're really helping people that have those kind of traumas, that they're tinkering with your profile while you're sleeping. They're in there playing, editing things, experimenting on you, and hopefully keeping a backup of the original in case they screw it up, because they will.
Well,
Hi,
yeah,
your hand's red.
or something like
You've
that.
got red on you.
Me and her think that it's more like they don't like change your personality. It's more like they just like change some things in your mind. So rather than being stuck on whatever happening, say November losing her daughter, it's more like instead of being stuck, you just kind of gradually deal with it. Or they put something in you where it's not so traumatizing. Like you still know what happened, but they do make it so you get over it.
Partial lobotomy.
Or for
So you process
Victor to
it
change
without
something.
actually processing.
Right, so someone else gets over it for you.
Right.
Yeah, because her reaction after she had gotten back the first time,
Right.
it's like she knew what happened, but it's like she didn't feel sad about it. It's like,
Right. Well,
What?
there's already medication for that. It's less expensive than the Dollhouse.
yeah, I know, right? But I don't remember her saying she was on medication or anything like that.
No.
She just kept breaking down and breaking down. It's like,
Right.
It'd be cool to be a doll because even if you don't have trauma, afterwards you get a house, you get a car.
Right.
Like,
And
it'd be fine.
as long as you're not too, squeamish about what happened to your body for 5 years, because if you, especially someone who's the number one in the house, like Echo, she's got a lot of miles on her after 5 years,
Yeah.
And all the things, from fighting to romancing, to put it in a PG term. Girl's been busy for 5 years, and now, hey, look, you're back in your body. What the hell did you do with me? Look at me. Well,
Hey, a lot of girls did do worse than that in college.
that's by
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah, but they at least remember it.
Right.
Getting your
Are
body
you
back
sure
after 5
college?
years.
yeah.
Hopefully they-
Actually, I think what I would have liked to see on was, how they were doing near the end in order to find out who's actually pulling the strings. It's like, okay, I actually want to see more conflict between Echo and all of the other imprints she has in her head and Caroline,
Right.
her original self.
Right.
I'd love to see more conflict between that. Basically all of these personalities vying for this one body, basically. I'd love to see that conflict.
Right.
They kind of glossed over it. It's like, I want to see it.
Well, they probably had to gloss over a lot of things. 'Cause it was,
Yeah, I know
I
she
hate that
probably
they
would end up like
yeah.
Alpha, but it's
Yeah.
like, I kind of want to see that conflict and how it gradually gets to that point.
Right.
You know, because with Alpha, they were all imprinted all at once, whereas with Echo, it was gradual. They all stayed in there, and then they put Caroline back into her. It's like, let's see how that works, you know? I would have loved to see that.
Pretty sure Echo was imprinted all at once.
Yeah, Alpha.
Alpha just ran her the gauntlet, but she was already headed that way anyway. She was heading down the path of being able to remember her imprints. What?
She was also chosen for that. Roy talks about how they did like something with her blood and they saw that she was special.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They chose her for that.
Yeah, they were going to make a cure for several people, and they wouldn't be able to be imprinted. Which is kind of ironic, because she got imprinted several thousand times or whatever, and
Right.
apparently her blood is going to make everybody else immune.
Right. Well, I'm sure they found something they can tinker with in there.
Yeah. DNA testing.
I always kind of felt like the way that they were going to fix people, like with the daughter or the baby that died and like PTSD, was going to be kind of a like Eternal Sunshine kind of deal. Like they were going to take your original and then cut out the pieces that had made you broken in the first place, and then when they set you free, you just wouldn't remember why you went in there in the first place.
Right. But again, that's part of you, you know.
Yeah.
We all want to cut something out of the past, but you have to realize that got you here.
Yeah.
You know, so if you lose that, you'll miss it. It doesn't matter how bad it was. Not that, you know, some.
I didn't say it was going to be effective, but
Right.
that's their plan.
But it could be the direction they're going.
You could always
Or-
change association, so even though Victor remembered all the bad shit that happened in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever he was stationed, he could be like, I remember that, but I don't have
Right.
stress, PTSD because of that, or
Right.
remember, I realize my baby's dead, but I don't
Well,
feel
you have
sad.
to, like I said, the partial lobotomy, you have to back down the emotional reaction
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
The emotional connectors to the memory. You need to be able to remember it, but
Kind of distance
numb it a
yourself.
little bit, yeah. But again, that influences it, right? Like, hey, I saw 20 people die. It doesn't really bother me. As opposed to, I saw 20 people die. That's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
It's a tragedy in the world that I killed 15 of those 20 people, you know? You should carry that. You need to carry that weight. It makes you who you are. We shouldn't be totally fine with killing 20 people. But you know, like you're saying, if we numb it down, Victor's cool, he can go back to functioning in the real world, but somewhere in the guy, he's pretty okay with killing 20 people. You know, where's that going to get him? Because he is a normal human thinking person, he's eventually going to think back on, why doesn't it bother me that I killed those people? I'm a sociopath. I'm going to kill some more people and see if that bothers me. Oh wait, it kind of doesn't. Or it does. I'm going to quit doing that. You know? Now he's killed some people out of experimentation.
You can go back to being
I would never do
forget
that.
it.
Right, yeah, exactly. And we're back again. Season 7.
They could have done that on purpose, you know, put them under for 5 years, but then when they come back to themselves, everything is just as it was, just to get the dolls to resign.
Right. Oh, I'm all about, you know, having customers come back.
Right.
Yeah.
So, oh, I'm sorry, that didn't work. Let's switch you up another
do it
year.
again.
Free of charge.
Yeah.
We'll just, yeah. Yeah, you shouldn't have to pay for it. Everybody else is paying for you. So, especially Adele, Victor. So,
I just thought of an interesting hypothetical.
uh-oh, we're in trouble.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a lot to say on this subject because I just watched it recently. With regards to especially Alpha and Echo, because they had so many personalities that they remembered. Do you think, you know, despite what had happened to both of them, would maybe like another 10 years or maybe another 20 would kind of quiet the voices, I guess, or fade the imprints, you know? Kind of put them on the back burner, tuck them away in a file or something. Do you think that could actually happen?
They showed it a bit with Echo when she was first able to access them, or trauma would switch them for her.
Right,
She's getting headaches and the nosebleeds and getting fatigued from it.
right.
And after a while, it was just like, oh, by the way, I'm that person now. Oh, I'm this guy now. Look, I switched over. But I think it would have, like you're saying, it would eventually progress to where it's like, I'm not switching to the special ops guy. I'm just getting lockpicking from him. I'm going to slip a skill out of him instead of bringing the whole imprint to the front.
Well, that's
So-
kind of how she was in the last episode. Echo, with Caroline and Echo, they did kind of go into that in the last episode of
They were
how
headed that way.
Caroline never had to battle the other personalities. She was Caroline, but could pull the skills from
Right.
the other personalities at will, rather than have to battle the actual personality.
Right. Which I think is an interesting direction because assuming all the horrible things that led to the dark future that they showed, the end of the world that Topher was afraid of that he invented, without that coming, if it progressed in a fairly normal manner, eventually they could create an imprint that had no personality to it, but had all the skills. And then you could go, hey, look, here's $10 million, I want to know how to do everything. There, I know how to do everything now. You know, so that's where they're headed. And if everybody knows how to do everything, then there's no specialists left in the world. So.
Well, that kind of doesn't answer my question, because it's like, okay, yeah, she can pick skills from the different personalities, but what if over time, all of those imprints, all of those personalities kind of just, got tucked away somewhere, or eventually just disappeared altogether?
Right. Are you saying that the dominant personalities would remain while the others stayed, or?
Yeah, because they
together?
put Caroline back in her own body, basically.
Right.
So because she was kind of this, strong-willed girl who wanted to do everything, that kind of gives her, its own, her personality its own strength.
I would say.
So do you think her one personality could dominate all the others, and eventually those others would fade away?
I think just like all memories.
Well, is that what you mean?
Yeah, just all these imprints just fade away.
No, there's muscle memory, no, I don't think that's. I don't
It's
think
part of
it's-
her.
The personality's maybe, skill set.
It doesn't matter that they're imprints, they're still part of her, they're still her memories that she went through. Those are her, regardless, irregardless of who put them in there. She still went through all that.
Just like all memories fade. If you don't, I'm sure after 40 years, if Caroline hasn't, or Echo hasn't kept up her lock-picking skill, like if you become an expert locksmith and you waited 40 years, you're not going to be an expert locksmith anymore. You might know how to still do it, but unless you're practicing stuff, all memories fade. That's just how the brain works. All memories fade. So if she's selectively choosing, hey, I'm going to keep doing this, this, and this, but I don't really care about this, this, and this, the latter one's just going to fade because the brain fades stuff like every memory.
Right.
And all
Yeah,
skills
and
are just
and-
based on doing it for 10,000 hours, becoming an expert.
That's a good statement on normal people. However, do imprints work the same way?
Well-
The imprint says, hey, you are at the top of your game with these skills. Someone who's composited throws that in the back of their head. Does it save the file where it's at, or does that personality, even though it's in the back of my brain, does it still age? If it spends 10 years not picking locks, it'll forget. But if it's just, on hold back there and I bring it up,
That's true.
boom, is it right when the last time I saw Topher and he stuck it in my head or not?
Yeah,
So it could, but the Dollhouse, the architecture may change that.
That's true.
I mean, it's a good point, but we don't know if the technology affects that.
What I read about the subconscious, that's what the subconscious is, it's a recorder.
Right.
And that's part of the theory behind hypnosis, is that you can bring up vivid memories that are very old through hypnosis because you access the subconscious, which just records it, doesn't judge it, and that supposedly it's all in there.
Right, so we all have eidetic memory, we just don't have the mental capacity to go get it. That's a good point.
Awesome. There was like this pause, I just felt like.
It was time to say awesome. You say it on the mic, awesome.
I know I don't want to need a mic so much. People sometimes will tell me I'm too loud.
You're not too loud.
I don't know where people would get that from.
Right.
No clue.
Yeah. It's all right. It happens.
We get about 13 more minutes.
All right,
What's your favorite color?
victory lap. Purple.
Purple? Well, why is that?
Purple, black, and green.
Purple, black, and green?
Yes.
That's like pretty quickly, sorry. Stuttered there.
Good job.
Yeah.
Take two, go.
No, that was it, I'm done.
Okay.
What's your favorite color?
What's my favorite color? Darkest of your heart.
Oh.
So it's pink. Oh, it's so sweet.
Aw. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think all day. I just think of these things to respond.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
Cool.
All
Do you go to a lot of
day.
panels and ask the same questions?
Yeah, I just stare in the mirror and talk to myself.
Are you a brony?
Am I brony now? No, but I just
Say it,
did
I have a
where
friend
we
who's
did, like,
brony.
this physics equations. That was pretty cool. I saw that. Some dude did his physics proofs using like rainbow ponies, breaking like the sound barrier and stuff.
Wow.
Awesome.
But we digress.
I still have
Was that-
my sample questions.
Good digression.
Okay.
Do you have sample
I
questions?
have, yeah.
Yay,
Those are
sample questions.
We're good
I
for it.
have a question.
Oh.
Oh,
We have
wait,
actual
what's your
questions.
question?
I don't know, the guy, whoever did producing of Dollhouse, and what other things has he done?
She didn't even producer also did Firefly.
Oh, okay.
Well,
You're talking about producer, not Joss Whedon, right? You're talking about someone that's not Joss Whedon.
I don't know who Chris said. I
Okay.
never really paid
Well,
attention.
Joss Whedon is responsible for Buffy, Dollhouse,
Firefly.
Firefly, Angel,
Avengers.
Cabin in the Woods,
Serenity?
Toy Story.
everything else is awesome. Well, I said Firefly, yes.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't know what he did. Yeah, and he wrote Toy Story. Everybody know that? He wrote
No.
Toy Story.
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
One of the best ensemble cast movies on the planet. Guess who wrote it?
Joss Whedon.
Joss
Wow.
Whedon. Right.
Now that I
15
didn't
awesome
know.
personalities
He also
in the
wrote
same room.
Titan AE.
Joss Whedon made it work.
Well, that I could believe.
Yeah, because Firefly is like, you see so many concepts after you watch Firefly in that.
Plus, he wrote the original script for the first X-Men movie, which only 2 lines got in, and they both got used poorly.
Oh.
And he wrote the original script for Alien Resurrection, which got heavily edited from what he wrote. But if you look at it, again, it's about the crew of the ship that stole the bodies. It's a dark, twisted sort of thing. It's an ensemble cast. Even though they're dark and insane, they're witty and funny as well. You know, you're like, hey, look, this is a good Joss Whedon product. Yes.
And also, I'm just gonna say, if anybody was interested in like the moral debate side of this and all the other Joss Whedon stuff, I am hosting tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock in this very room, actually, the Can They Do That panel about Joss Whedon and moral debate across everything that he's written. So please feel free to come and discuss morals and Whedon, and we'll just all be morbid together.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug. Everybody does it. Well, we kind of touched on it in here, you know, we had some good discussion, so I thought, hey, invite everybody back to hash it out some more.
Right.
Because it's fun to, you know, be like, really, he did that? And we liked it? What were you thinking? What's wrong with us? What's
So-
wrong with us?
A quick question related to actually another completely different conversation, but I think it'll fit here. Before Dollhouse, did you ever think it would be cool to have the same actor in the same show play different roles? I mean, that's something that, it's a freedom that we haven't seen in this conversation I'm having about now.
Like The Pretender?
Well,
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Stuff like that where you get the same actor,
Thing, though?
and it's a great acting exercise for that actor because every season, or every episode of the season, they're a different character.
That's one of the reasons I really got into Burn Notice,
Mm-hmm.
because he's so many different characters in
Yeah,
that show.
and like the Pretender stuff like that, where they're special ops or con artists or
Quantum Leap.
secret people,
Alias.
like that, yeah.
Alias, that's another one.
Alias. Alias.
Oh, wait, there's been a billion shows like that.
Once you there's really
Yeah,
like
but not in this particular manner.
Right, well, yeah, this is pretty serious.
Yeah, this is pretty technologically advanced stuff.
Well, what'd you say about Buffy?
but in the Halloween episode, when she becomes the
Whatever she's-
1920s girl or
Right.
whatever, that's the first time I thought, hey, okay, I could watch her play several different characters
Right.
and be happy with it. Yeah.
Nice. And a lot of like sitcoms have done it where they switch roles or suddenly it's the 20s or stuff like that. Or dramas or things like that where it's everybody's playing different roles. So they've experimented with it, but this was the first, well, not the first, there's some others like that, but really where the character's not pretending to be another person, but they truly have become a different person. Hi, how are you?
It's just
What's your name?
Callie, sorry. Josh
Callie?
did it again in that same Buffy episode where Xander becomes the Army military guy.
Right.
He remembers all of that.
Right.
And that just made me think of the imprints that are.
Which is probably Joss thinking about Dollhouse.
Right.
So I say, maybe where he came up with the concept, and I
Right.
decided, wow, I could do that.
He also
Yeah, ran that
eating
concept.
people.
Yeah, he did,
Right.
yeah, as a hyena. Yeah. Sorry.
I actually have one last question
Great.
about Alpha. In the very last episode, when he comes in for his last cameo or whatever, he seems to have a very calm demeanor and he's very helpful. Now, I understand that, over time he does gain control of all these imprints, just like Echo did, but she did it faster. But, considering how he started out as a criminal, why would he want to be helpful?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
There you go. Very succinct.
Well, really, like, if you look at like crime rates and stuff, and like how people are, and like what affects crime, it's like really just like jobs. When we see that like we don't have very many jobs in our society, crime goes up, and then when we have more jobs, it is the same rate. Like it fluctuates. So like
Right, they're related.
the government can control stuff like that. Anyways,
Oh,
so that's
conspiracy
why
theories.
like yeah, that's crazy talk, but
It's great stuff.
That's why, like, being helpful, like, that's kind of why people turn to crime, essentially, is they don't have a job to do, so that, just because he's a criminal doesn't mean he doesn't want to be helpful.
Right.
Almost.
I think
I was about to say,
a little bit of a
I mean, did those imprints really? No, seriously, did gaining control of his imprints actually change his personality?
Yeah, I think it did. I think he's got enough people in there, psychiatrists and other things.
Well, he's got,
like,
what,
they're
3
talking-
psychos in there? He's
Yeah.
got, like, schizophrenics running around up there. It's like, why don't they, gain control and have him start, Rand Raven doing his criminal thing,
None of them are strong enough to take control for the whole time. Hi, how are you?
Yes, hello. I have a question. So I have only seen like 3 episodes or so of the show. I know it's done, but why don't they sell this technology to the military? Because like forget all this like.
They
Oh.
were already.
I was saying, you
Okay.
haven't think, it's supposed to say, you didn't think they have it?
There's an episode where it showcases, and we talked about Victor already.
Yep.
And everybody that's seen the whole show knows that they have a weapons program basically where they're making awesome soldiers.
Because like this, like that, like I was in the.
Yeah, it's like a Captain
Sounding
America
awesome.
thing.
Like,
Yeah,
they
so-
spend so much time on training.
Right. So if they take the best trained guy you've ever met and they copy him on everybody else, and then they put an implant where he could talk to all those other people at the same time.
It is
Psychically.
Yeah,
speed of thought,
psychically.
and they can share the brain like the board, then you got it made, right? You got an entire company of soldiers
Like,
that
you don't
think
even have to
together.
do, like, so like I was a military cop. Like so they didn't necessarily have to give me like crazy spec ops training.
Right.
They could just give me like cop training, like.
But
man,
think about
that's
this.
Millions of dollars.
If they imprinted all of you, including you, with the with the Spetsnaz training with the highest level dude,
Yeah.
you don't need military police anymore, right? Because none of you are going to act up. You're all going to you're a radio in and you go to misbehave. And
Yeah,
if this
basically
guy's
you
gonna
have
like to
everybody
do something.
as just one person.
Right. You think as a unit.
Yeah, because you know how they say an army of one? Well, that's kind of what it needs.
Yeah, 50 people with the same brain. Yes.
Exactly.
Which would be highly efficient and scary.
I felt so bad for Victor in that episode, though, because he was trying his hardest to get out of that. And he eventually did, but it's like, it took a lot of effort.
The guy's a good actor. I can't believe he's not working more.
I know, right?
Especially playing Topher. I mean, who can play Topher?
Nobody else can play
Nobody but
Topher.
Fran can play Topher. We have how much time?
3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say that I did feel sorry for Bennett for what happened to her.
Yeah.
I'm like, seriously, Caroline was going to be that much of a douche
Right.
about it. It's
Well,
like,
and-
Real talk.
I would have rather they both get caught or they both escape than having just Caroline escape and and Bennett just laying there.
Well, it helped because the original Caroline that we met with Ballard watching the videos, she's this poor helpless waif. I go rescue her. Now we see a little darker side of her. We're starting to see that Caroline, she's as much of an ass as everybody else. She's really a jerk, and we're not so happy about her anymore. Something I was going to throw out before we get moderated. Has Joss got an addiction to people with weird names or what? Yeah. Look at the cast. It's like it's Tomo and Daichin and a guy named Fran, like
Eliza.
the girl named
Eliza.
Summer. Eliza. Yeah, I'm like, really? Can't you get like a Joe and a John? No. I mean, the closest was Sarah, and it's not Sarah. It's Sarah Michelle Gellar. So,
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion is
Right.
pretty.
It's silly. But I mean, Tomo Pinkett. What did you?
Adam Baldwin, Nathan
You got
Fillion.
some good names, but Al Tudyk is kind of a obscure.
That's
weird
British.
one.
Like lots of
But-
actors have like names like that, right? Like.
But I mean, look at the specifically Dollhouse. Look at the cast for Dollhouse. Go down the list.
Let's say I think the only normal name was Michelle Williams if she was Adele.
Right.
Like that's the only normal name on there.
Olivia in there somewhere. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But still, it's one of those.
It's filled with people with odd names
Right.
that are not overly common, but you never know. There are stranger names out there.
There's Drew Marina Baccarin.
I don't think he likes weird names.
I was about to say he's got a weird name himself, so
Yes. Well, it's because he abbreviates it that way. Like he does with his characters, like Alexander, or
Wait, Joss isn't his full name?
It's,
was gonna say, I thought it was.
Joshua something.
Oh,
So
okay.
I forget what it is. I know it's not just Joss.
It's cool.
I was gonna say it just sounds like that's his actual name.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
It is a very cool name.
But names like Xander out of Alexander, because normally you go with Alex, not Xander, and then like Wash out of Hobbit. Like his name's not Wash or Hobbit. It's Hobbit Washburn. It's Wash.
I mean, they could have called Zoe Wash too.
You're about to be moderated.
Oh, yes. Wait, I've been waiting for this moment. Go.
All right, well, unfortunately, we're out of time. So if you have any further questions, you can meet our panelists, Jesse and Christmas, after the panel and ask them. Thank you very much for coming to the con and have a great day.